Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we're checking out an indie shoot 'em up that has some blistering gameplay with some sick, almost Tim Burton style. It sounds like an odd combination, but today's game shows that it can work, and in this instance surprisingly well. We're looking at NeverAwake, developed by Neotro Inc. and published by Phoenixx Inc. This into PC in September of 2022 and receiving console ports in January of 2023. This twin-stick shooter feels like what happens when you throw Forgotten Worlds, Battlemania, and the CG Tim Burton films in a blender, and the result is very interesting. You play the role of Rim, a young girl that's essentially in a coma, lost in a nightmarish fever dream as she regains consciousness. You'll battle through 7 areas of enemies that are outlandish approximations of childhood fears, and even some heavy life-changing experiences. You'll fight through the nervous system and hopefully wake up and come back to reality. Gameplay-wise, NeverAwake is a twin-stick shooter that feels very similar to Forgotten Worlds mixed with Troubleshooter or even Taito's Side Battler. The action comes in at a steady clip and will have a handful of objectives as you venture through each world. As you go through each stage, you'll be tasked with downing as many enemies as you can while devouring their souls. The main objective on the normal clear of each stage will be to absorb souls and fill the meter to 100%. Once you do that, you can move on to the next stage. You move with your left stick and can fire in all 8 directions with the right stick. While you have your base shot, you'll also have a powerful secondary attack which you gain more of as the game progresses. You also get items that you can equip that will let you take more damage, move faster, and have increased damage output. You've also got a directional dash that can get you out of a pinch once you get comfortable with the movement. Once you finish the base game, the Omioid challenges open up, which change the gameplay objectives around a bit. While you wanted to collect souls in the original missions, here new challenges are added like finding wormholes placed throughout the stage, or getting 100% of souls in a single loop of stages. Boss fights are also reworked to where now you can destroy the bosses completely by avoiding souls to completely drain boss health. NeverAwake honestly gets bucked with the level of bullets and enemies it will throw on screen at once, and chances are you're going to get smoked a lot early on and in the later parts of the journey. While gaining upgrades and items fleshing out your character build will even out the difficulty, or if you want more of a challenge, you can hold it down with just the bare minimum through most of the game. You can take several hits before losing a life, but once your HP is gone, it's back to the beginning of the stage. If you find you're having a bit of trouble during the stages, you can use the Oversoul upgrade, which will boost your attack power and defense 4 feet. This too will add a small penalty upon each use by sapping some of your available currency. While you may not need these in the initial game, during some of the side missions, especially clearing the loops with 100% of souls in a single pass, is mainly where the Oversoul became very useful for some extra pepper when needed. Defeating each area's main boss will move you to a new region and fire a new synapse, slowly bringing Rim out of this nightmare. Boss fights can get into almost bullet hell category when it comes to projectiles on screen, and even with upgrades, you can still get clapped up quick if you're not careful. Here is mainly where the gloves come off and the screen can get flooded with lasers, missiles, and a slew of several bullet varieties. Encounters do get pretty challenging, especially once getting past the initial areas. Upgrades and items will give you an edge in boss fights, but you can still get smoked if you don't learn attack patterns and maximize your damage output. Graphics wise, NeverAwake runs on the Unity engine, and this is one of the cooler looking projects I've seen on the engine in a little while. The art style is a strong suit here, with hyper detailed hand-drawn enemies and backgrounds blended with 3D character models and environmental augments like the floating crystal on some stages. This game has a very distinct look that you don't see often, and it's pretty slick with its execution. Each area has its own nightmarish theme, like the dentist or doctor's office, grade school, dog parks, and Route A, which has some standout sections. And these environments all look pretty crazy, especially with the effects layers that are on top of it when the action's kicking off. It really does have a look of the Tim Burton animated films like Nightmare Before Christmas or Neil Gaiman's Coraline, and the style lends well to a twin-stick shooter. The marionette style movement of the characters is also a neat dynamic with certain enemy types. Boss characters come in several forms with the main encounters, and these get pretty wild design-wise. Giant doctors throwing syringes, schoolyard bullies, and a creature made out of various handguns and rifles are only a few of the bosses you'll encounter here. While in the main game you want to just collect souls and end encounters quickly, once you get to the final battles you'll see some gnarly forms and damage animations when taking bosses down for good. As you move through each area you'll get entries of Rim's memories, and these vary between happy and somber moments. There's also a few challenges within the Omioid mode, which unlock fragments in the form of photographs. These two display a range of subject matter with a couple sometimes heavy emotional moments with written commentary. This all coupled with the game's hand-drawn artwork is a very good combination here. The art style carries it through the game's 80+ levels, and with each world shifts the dynamics from the visuals to the gameplay and rarely gets old. There's some truly mind-bending stuff in here, and that coupled with the challenging encounters and level objectives rounds out a solid looking shoot 'em up, but also a smooth feeling experience that even under pressure doesn't buckle often. Though when there is a lot happening on screen, it can have the occasional bit of slowdown. This however doesn't really hinder the experience. Despite the hiccups on the Switch, it still pulls off some sick visuals and fast-paced action. Sound-wise, NeverAwake has some really interesting and varied composition throughout the game's numerous worlds. Each world has some recurring tunes and a few unique ones thrown in for good measure, all of which range from more action-packed tunes to the more moody and whimsical tunes that embody the atmosphere of each area. Fumihiro Uekeza composes the soundtrack here, and it's full of the unexpected yet appropriate backing tunes that push you through the game. Granted, it isn't all hype tunes like mini shoot-em-ups and bullet hell games as some may anticipate, but the soundtrack really captures several vibes that hit numerous emotional points. Some areas will have backing tracks that lean into that feeling of dread, while others can feel more like a raucous car chase or fight scene. The soundtrack has a very cinematic feel and is yet another unique piece of the title. Sound effects follow suit with some punchy weapon audio and effects work that is top-notch even without spoken dialogue. Your weapon arsenal has got some proper kick to them, and each sub-weapon slaps with some ferocious audio, all with solid feedback. Explosions have varying levels of boom here, from downing smaller enemies to the megaton crunch of defeating boss characters, all of which sound satisfying. Audio cues from enemies on each stage also have their own unique battle cries and sound bites letting you know that you're laying down damage. Alongside this is the atmospheric sounds and ambience of each area, all containing unique Foley art from the echoes of hallways to busy intersections during a high-speed chase. The audio work here is very good across the board and is a memorable part of the experience. To sum it up, NeverAwake is a fantastic twin-stick shooter that breaks convention with its art style and superb audio work. It's also got some challenging and varied gameplay scenarios to keep you on your toes through the game's 80 stages, and going back for the Omioid challenges adds yet another layer of gameplay, since those can be some of the more difficult bouts to complete. As you gain more upgrades and special weapons, Rim becomes a force to be reckoned with, but keep in mind the game almost always matches what you're working with as you progress. The challenge will scale to you, but never really quite get into unfair territory, though it will make you revise strategies from time to time. NeverAwake gets an 8.5 out of 10 and comes highly recommended to twin-stick shooter fans and those that are looking for something a bit different. The gameplay will snare most in almost immediately, along with its art style, and the challenge will keep you engaged throughout each area. The customization of your builds will let you go wild and scale your character however you want once you unlock upgrades, so you've got a lot of options. If you're into games like Forgotten Worlds or Troubleshooter and want to throw in a psychological twist on top of that, there's certainly something to check out. This is available on all current and past gen platforms, including Steam, for $25, and if you're able to find a physical copy, go for it if it strikes your interest. And I thank you again if you made it this far into the video. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you can use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more videos and commentaries coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.